Geeking Out! Hey, and welcome to Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And we've kind of got a bit of an unorthodox interview, and, well, let me explain it. Hey, this is a pre-recorded interview that we did with Simon Spurrier, the writer of Cry Havoc. He's here to talk about that book. We get into some of the other books that he's written as well, and but mostly about Cry Havoc. And that's out in comic book shops everywhere now through Image Comics. So you can get that, or you can get it on Comixology. But yeah, so this was a pre-recorded interview. I sent him a bunch of questions. He pre-recorded the answers. We kind of edited around it. So if it kind of seems that way, that's what happened. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Hello folks, Simon Spurrier here, writer of Cry Havoc, amongst other things. Here to answer a few questions about, Cry Havoc, amongst other things. So, here we go.
Right, first up. So let's start from the beginning. Cry Havoc is at once a love story complicated by supernatural horror and a squad-based Black Ops military tale in the vein of The Dirty Dozen. How did this story all kind of come about?
Very good question. Like most of my ideas, it came about organically, bit by bit. I tend to think of creativity in terms of oysters, wrapping layers of spit around little grains of sand rather than some sort of exquisite pearl arriving fully formed. For me, ideas are far less about magical inspiration and kind of thunderbolts out of the blue, and far more about time, mutation, and effort. It's not to say that it doesn't occasionally happen, just more regularly it requires some serious effort. I've always been a nut for folklore, so I guess that's where it begins. I'd started seeing these weird patterns in mythology, repeat beats and unexpected analogues with a bunch of the prevailing preoccupations of our modern age. Identity, dispossession, self-control, prejudice, it's all in there if you go looking for it. Ultimately, I realised I was sympathising with a lot of the monsters in these stories, which serve as kind of moral shepherds in a way. Don't go near the deep water or X will get you. Don't talk to strangers, one of them might be Y. Basically, all of our best bogeymen are actually just cautionary common sense diktats dressed up in creative creature feature ways. I guess think of them as metafictional bad cops. The tragedy is that our own modern world has lost all interest in these splendid beastly manifestations. We find ourselves living in an age which takes everything really literally. In other words, we've forgotten the importance of things whose reality is hazy, which, as far as I'm concerned, sucks. So, I found myself wondering what it would be like to be one of these creatures. How would you respond to feeling redundant or forgotten, unneeded? How would you go about making yourself and your people relevant again? And how would that story play out on a very human level? Before I quite knew what I was doing, all these ingredients were blending themselves together and demanding a particular shape. It ended up becoming a story about a woman struggling with the chaos inside herself, infected by an occult curse, who is forced to travel into a war zone in the company of other metamorphosing monsters to try and heal herself. And in the process she stumbles upon a far wider and wilder global situation. Depending how you look at it, Cry Havoc's either a thoughtful but exceptionally violent take on the classic monsters with guns subgenre exclusive to comics, an intensely political dissection of the human race's obsession with control, or an extremely personal story about one woman trying to work out who she is against a backdrop of fiends, firepower, and fragility.
Folklore surrounding lycanthropes and people being able to transform between humans and animals have existed literally for millennia. What is it that you really wanted to say about that sort of story when you were conceiving and writing Cry Havoc?
Well, all stories are transformative, of course. Shapeshifters have served as a useful shorthand for all kinds of thematic tissue. Western conceptions of vampires, for instance, have wound up centered around notions of class, culture, decadence, the kind of long shadow of Byronism. The werewolf counterintuitively lends itself very well to more interior and often secret struggles, sexuality, madness, identity, things which have a habit of bubbling to the fore. The beauty of having even the shallowest grounding in international folklore is that one very quickly realises how thoroughly boring the Hollywood darlings of the monster world really are when compared to some of their global cousins. You look at vampire analogues in Asia, to pluck a random example, they're not only a billion times more inventive and horrifying than our own, widow's peak cape-wearing cliches, I want to suck your blood, but they serve completely different functions in the cycle of cautionary superstition, which I mentioned just now. Well, I wanted to tell a monster story which was quite overtly about stuff. I wanted it to be fun and crazy and violent and beautiful and all the things you'd expect from a book about slavering creatures, but also deeply and accurately rooted in real lore, if you know what I mean when I say real, and all of that serving a very specific function. I won't spoil the end of the arc, but for all of Lou's ups and downs, this story ends with a really brave and positive personal revelation, hinging around notions of identity, self-belief, and mental wellness. We literally couldn't have reached that point without relying on the complex, nuanced, but visually wonderful canon of metamorphosing monsters that we've played with.
Early on, you quote Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which has parallels to this story of a rogue figure going native in a war zone and starting up their own cult of personality. Was Heart of Darkness a major influence on Cry Havoc?
Sure, of course, although because I am a terrible pedant, it's worth mentioning that Heart of Darkness is the story of the visitor, Marlowe, not the rogue himself, Mr. Kurtz. Just as Cry Havoc's central story is about Lou, not about Lynn O'Dell and her Afghan refuge for monsters. Actually, I'd argue Heart of Darkness is just one exceptional example of an ur-myth which has been around since before history was written. A reluctant hero undertakes a journey into the frightening unknown, often seeking to retrieve or destroy a piece of civilization which has been lost to the wild. Along the way, the traveller realises that the true journey has little to do with the wildness of location and everything to do with the wildness of the human heart. What starts out looking like a physical quest winds up being a spiritual transformation. Well, that all sounds horribly trite, like a recipe for a particular type of story, but there it is. I like to think Cry Havoc subverts and mutates that archetype in some pretty major ways, but Conrad's prose is simply too beautiful to resist a little nod at the start of my journey.
Apart from Heart of Darkness, there are multiple literary quotes kicking off each chapter, and the title itself being a Shakespeare quote from Julius Caesar. What were some of your major influences with the story, and what do the quotes serve?
Well, the quotes serve several functions. Most importantly, they orient the reader's expectations about the different stages of Lou's journey. And frankly, they remind the casual browser that beneath all this monster-mashing violence on the page, there's a lot of meaty stuff going on. Emergent motifs of cages, restraint, captivity, expression, humanity, reality, stories about stories, all sorts of stuff. Basically, Cry Havoc is absolutely the sort of book which rewards rereading, and those literary quotes are a slightly heavy-handed way of saying there's stuff going on here, take me seriously. It's me showing off, basically. Now, I can make a pretty good case for everything in Cry Havoc serving a function, whether it's character, tale, theme, whatever, but I can't deny that I did relish the chance to drop a big smoking formalist experiment on my readers with my first ever proper image book. And I guess that all my collaborators, Ryan on art, Matt, Nick and Lee on colour, Emma on design, Simon on letters, that they've all made the reading experience as effortless as possible is testament to their collective brilliance rather than any skill on my part. There's too many influences to mention. Frankly, they're mostly ambient rather than specific. But I've always kind of enjoyed describing Cry Havoc as Jarhead meets Pan's Labyrinth, so let's go with that.
What made Ryan Kelly the perfect artist to visualize the story?
Put simply, he is the best storyteller working in the comic book industry today. I'm not making that up, I'm not exaggerating. Modern comics are overflowing with these incredibly stylish talents and exceptional illustrators, but I do sometimes worry we're losing touch with the single most important skill that every comic book artist needs, which is narrative momentum. It requires a grasp of the nuts and bolts technical stuff, directorial craft, basically. And you'd be amazed how many A-list artists don't have the first clue about eye tracking, crossing the line, angle selection, all that stuff. Plus, it requires a thoughtless intuition for the flow of a story. One way that I like to describe comics, quite simply, is the art of controlling the dissemination of information across a series of units of time and space. Doing so in the most perfectly paced, easily followed, beautiful way possible is kind of the holy grail of the industry. And that's especially true if you're talking about a story bumper packed with experiments, formalist shenanigans, and multiple layers of meaning like Cry Havoc. Really, I just wrote the thing. It's Ryan who makes it readable. It doesn't hurt that his sense of monster design and location is second to none either. He really is a huge talent.
Cry Havoc features a whole host of colorists. What was the intention to have such, a robust bullpen of colorists to craft the story, and was this planned from the start?
It was planned from quite near the start, I think. While plotting the series, I realised that Lou's story was kind of demanding all on its own, that it be told in 3 separate but parallel threads. To put it in plain terms, by sticking these threads side by side rather than consecutively, we accessed all kinds of fascinating peaks and troughs, enhancement, juxtapositional patterns in this one woman's life. And we caught ourselves striking up relationships between unexpected moments, and in general we could do some really unique comic book storytelling. The biggest problem with that sort of experimentation is that one risks losing one's audience. They've never seen anything quite like it, so how are they supposed to know that the scenes on this page don't follow on chronologically from the scenes on the previous one? It's been an accepted technique in comics and TV and movies for ages that flashback scenes could be, for instance, rendered in black and white or just a reduced palette, so that audiences don't get too muddled up. I simply figured that what we needed here was a more sophisticated version of the same, which could differentiate not just 2 but 3 separate time periods, and hopefully do so in a rather more nuanced way than simply switching to grayscale. Luckily, all this was taking shape at about the same time that a much needed conversation was going on in the broader comics community about how poorly colorists have historically been treated, rarely credited, often dismissed or ignored altogether in critical analyses. They're regarded as a sort of support role rather than a creative art in their own right. So Ryan and I realised that we had in our hands a means not only of helping to visually distinguish our 3 narrative threads from each other, but also to demonstrate in a really powerful fashion just how much of an impact colorists truly do have on the feel of a comic book page. Hence, thanks to the different but differently beautiful styles and palette choices of Matt, Nick and Lee, a reader can very quickly and thoughtlessly orient themselves in the chronology of Lou's tale while reading Cry Havoc. So 1 artist, 3 colorists, 3 very different vibes. It's worth saying that I hope we're on the cusp of an even wider enlightenment in comics with all the other so-called support roles. I'm thinking of inkers, letterers, designers, editors, all of them achieving the same levels of critical legitimacy as colorists are beginning to receive now. Basically, it's a collaborative medium. It all falls apart when you take away any of these roles. Occasional conversations that crop up on bloody Twitter about who's more important than who are fundamentally idiotic, in my opinion.
This collection features extensive annotations of the series, like an in-depth commentary for the readers. Was this something you would want to include from the very beginning?
Absolutely, yes. I didn't want to overburden readers with detail, but I wanted it to be accessible to those who are interested. So, story decisions, formalist techniques, real-world history in detail, and above all, my encyclopedic, slightly obsessive interest in folklore. It all found its way into these kind of annotation pages at the back, which are lovingly recreated and in fact expanded upon in a couple of places for the trade paperback.
As this is only the first volume and a lot of the major characters find themselves at a crossroads by the story's end, can you hint at what we can expect at moving forward?
Well, I approach every story with a very clear ending in mind. This is a pretty massive topic, so I won't stray too deep because I could go on and on for hours, but I believe that stories are a primal technology in the human understanding of reality. I also believe that comics are the most perfectly evolved form of narration to tune in to that perceptual proclivity. Now, that all sounds massively pretentious, I'm sorry, but I'm not making it up. It's actually something I lecture on occasionally, and I can prove all this on graphs and pictures. As creators and readers, we all deserve, I think, to be a little bit more proud of just how fucking sophisticated our chosen medium really is. Comics are fabulously clever while somehow seeming fabulously simple and accessible. They really are a form of magic. Anyway, I digress. My point is that a story isn't a story unless it has an end. So I'm pretty down on the, frankly, increasingly outmoded notion of a true ongoing book, as in a story which just runs and runs and runs. Most publishers and most creators are today more sensibly focused on a form of modular storytelling in which each arc of an ongoing book serves as a self-contained story, with subsequent arcs feeling more like sequels than some perpetual breathless continuation. Or at least if there is that kind of continuous ongoing blur of story, one has the sense that the writer and artist know where it's going to end, rather than just perpetually extending it until they can't get away with it anymore. I mention all of this to illustrate that for me, book one of Cry Havoc is a full story. In its simplest conception, it's the tale of a woman, Louise Canton, trying to work out how to coexist with herself. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on too, monsters and mercenaries and global politics and conspiracies and drugs and mental illness and romance and a giant boar guy who can't stop masturbating and blah 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 blah. But yes, that is the core thread. By the end of Arc 1, Lou has closed that particular book. She knows who she is, and she knows how to be. Arc 2, if and when it happens, will adjust the lens. Per my current thinking, I reckon it'll be the story of how Lou applies that knowledge to the wider world. Who else is affected? What changes? I have a whole bunch of ideas for that and a lot of fun stuff to say. But yes, if and when, not when. Put simply, creator-owned comics are difficult and exhausting and expensive and have precisely no guarantee of remuneration. That's especially true of something as ambitious and difficult to describe as Cry Havoc. Ryan and I, actually the whole team, sweated blood and planted full crops of grey hairs in making this book. We couldn't be prouder of it, and the reception has been mind-blowing, but, sorry, uncomfortable truth time, we're not exactly putting in orders on those brand new yachts we've been eyeing up just yet. So we have every intention of circling back for book 2 in the near future, and oh boy, it'll be worth the wait. But we have to spend a little while spinning some other plates first. For instance, I'm building up to announcing a new image book, which will be about 1 million miles away in subject and scope. I can't wait to fill you all in a little bit more about that. Until then, Cry Havoc is a story, which has its ending, and which I genuinely believe really, really matters as a result.
Sigh, at the risk of getting my nose brown, your run on the Marvel Comics character Legion is perhaps the most definitive take for that character. With Legion getting his own TV series soon, I was wondering if you had any reflections, writing the character as a whole and the time you spent with him.
Well, I'm very glad that you enjoyed it, and you are, of course, very welcome to Brown Nose whenever you like. It is, however, difficult to reflect on that work. I like to think that everything I wanted to say about the character, and more importantly the themes I wanted to explore with him, are there on the page. It's funny, it's achieved this weird sort of sacrosanctity in my memory, and I'm weirdly resistant to saying anything more about it. It's not the sort of book that needs a director's commentary or behind-the-scenes stuff or bloody endless playlists to enhance the experience. It's a story about a kid whose own worst enemy is his own brain. In the end, he finds a way, it's the most bittersweet and mischievous way imaginable, to harmonise himself with it. I say mischievous because at least a small part of my decision to end the series the way that I did was to kind of ring-fence it. Whoever else comes along and reboots, rethinks, or retcons the whole thing, and that will inevitably happen, even if it's somebody else rather than me, those 24 issues will always be a thing that can stand alone. I suppose the important thing to say, with the benefit of a little bit of distance, is that I continue to be moved every year by people who felt that run spoke to them in a really positive way. If I go ahead and fuck up every other story that I ever write, if I never do anything worthwhile ever again, I can say with my hand on my heart that I helped a few brave, struggling young people love themselves just a little bit better than they did before, and that's invaluable.
Sai, something we ask everybody that comes on the show: what are you currently geeking out over?
Oh heavens, all sorts of things. Musically, I'm on a Pussifer binge at the moment. Their latest album, Money Shot, is as excellent and undefinable as anything they've ever done. In fact, if you haven't picked up the, I think it's called M for Miller mix of the single The Mission, which features Mila Jovovich, she of The Fifth Element, You Are So Urged. It's a barnstormer. Comics, I've been working my way through Peter Bagg's Buddy Bradley books, which are an extraordinary mix of hilarious, heartbreaking, horrifying, and uncomfortably real. They're a clear primogenitor of The Simpsons, but with drugs and sex and suicide and people behaving abominably. So it's a genuine cluster bomb of a series, fantastically made, but don't expect to come out of it feeling particularly cheerful. In prose, I just committed myself to the gargantua that is Alan Moore's Jerusalem. So far, not just as mind-meltingly clever as you'd expect, but also dripping with humanity and heart. He really is an exceptional brain. I recently took out a subscription for 14 times while we're on the subject of reading stuff, which I heartily recommend. It's informative and endlessly entertaining weirdness. I would describe it as exactly the right balance between agnostic skepticism and incredulous delight in the unknown. So it's perfect breakfast browsy stuff. TV, just completed a rewatch of Deadwood. In fact, I've just done my first stint as a staff writer on a US show, so I've been even more infuriatingly formalist about viewing experiences than usual. In my opinion, Deadwood remains the best written ensemble show ever. It's not just for the exquisite dialogue, which exquisite, but for the cleverness of its transitions. Comics creators could genuinely learn a lot from that show. Movies, I finally got around to the 9th configuration. Holy shit, that's all I'm saying about that. Holy shit, just watch it. I could name about 6 super successful movies of the modern era which either owe a great debt or have cribbed mercilessly from the 9th configuration. Video games, I finally finished Fallout 4, which, beautiful but narratively annoying somehow. And I went straight back to Witcher 3 for the latest DLC. Curmudgeonly monster hunter who just wants to get paid, surrounded by all these irritating flouncy knights and cod Arthurian chivalric clothes. That's kind of 100% my bag, baby. Last but not least, board games. Just picked up Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which is breathtakingly clever. I genuinely urge you to rush out and get it right now. Go and sit in a lovely pub with your favourite people and just dive deep. And that's it for me. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy Cry Havoc. And yes, see you soon.
Well, that was a really cool interview. You know, I think that went really well. I mean, it's probably the most straight up interview we've ever had.
Yeah. The most on the rails interview we've ever had.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta stay on the road.
Yeah. No, that was good.
The long and winding road.
Yeah. To your heart. Leads me to your door. No, it's again, yeah, it's a great book. We reviewed it earlier on a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah.
You can find that on our website. But it was thanks again to Cy Spurrier for coming on and talking about it, and check out the book. It's available now. It's always weird when we have an interview that doesn't go tangent crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one was kind of constructed that way to not. It was impossible, but just to hear, we talk about having British creators on, and it's just this he sounds so elegant and uses words I don't use, and he sounds very smart and wonderful. And I enjoyed just as a fan just listening to his responses. Not necessarily being in the room when they happened.
Sure.
So it was cool.
Technically, I wasn't in the room when it happened either.
Yeah, but you knew. You fucking knew.
I did. Yeah. Pop this motherfucker together. But what you guys been up to?
Well, on Friday I saw the new Magnificent Seven movie.
Was it magnificent?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, as a caveat, still haven't seen the original, so I don't know how it.
Have you seen Seven Samurai?
I did back in almost 10 years ago when I first started college and I had a film school. We watched a couple Kurosawa films, but still relatively very different movie.
I don't hold up Magnificent Seven, how fucking dare you remake Magnificent Seven, because one, it's a remake of Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
2, there's 3 sequels.
Yep.
To the Magnificent Seven and a TV show in the late 60s
Alamo definitely showed at least one of the trailers for one of the sequels.
Oh, Rides Again, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I sat in there watching it as just it by itself, and I found myself very entertained. A lot of the actual plot kind of felt like they were trying to push it along quickly so they could get to the next action sequence, because this definitely was like a contemporary Western, where it's not the slow
it's
tension
not Once
building.
Upon a Time in the West.
Exactly. It was an action film that just happened to be set in the Old West. So they were trying to get to the next explosion, the next gunfight.
How is Peter Sarsgaard?
Judging by how you guys reacted to him in Ant-Man, I assume you're going to have a very similar reaction to him in this.
He's not in Ant-Man.
I'm sorry, not fuck.
Black Mass.
Yeah.
He's also the Green Lantern.
Yes, that's what it was. Green Lantern.
I like Peter. Yeah, but I don't like him in that movie, but I like Peter Sarsgaard for the most part.
But I thoroughly enjoyed him. But because he was entertaining. Like he was like kind of like over the top, kind of chewing scenery, similar but not as much as like Kenneth Branagh in Wild Wild West. Shit. But like kind of just like an over the top character.
Wild Wild West.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that I don't understand, gripes and stuff like that. I can like something and still recognize that it's bad or,
my
weird,
point is like you're more amenable to
that's
it.
What, yeah, and that's what I was getting at. Like I enjoyed it, but I'm saying that I totally understand, like, like you two probably going to be like, he was too over the top. And
as long as every single member of the Magnificent Seven like blow him to smithereens at the end of the movie, I'll be happy.
I
won't be happy.
Yeah.
Never happy again.
I mean, spoilers. None of them kill him. I said spoilers. It's fine.
No, it's not a spoiler that I'm upset by.
I mean, he does. Again, spoiler, but I already gave one. He does die, but it's it's what's her name?
Haley Bennett.
Yes,
not Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes. By the way, Haley Bennett was in this. I thought she was great.
She's in Girl on the Train.
Yeah.
She is. Well, I guess she isn't the girl on the train. She's the girl under the train.
Is that the trailer I shit myself during because
Allison Janney
showed up and it got quiet? I went, oh shit! And I try not to be like that guy in a theater and be like quiet and not talk, but I could not help myself.
Tarzan,
because
it's Tarzan
because of my my celebrity crush on Allison Janney, and she showed up and because I thought I saw her and I was like, is that? And then it showed her. I went, oh shit!
Yeah, right.
Yes, Girl on the Train is that movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not going to see it, but
The Help was on TV today. That's got Allison Janney.
Oh, does it? Okay,
yeah.
Good. That's good. I've never seen it. I've seen very little of her work. To be fair, I saw an episode of that show Mom with which is actually a funny show because it has her. It had Joe Manganiello as a guest star.
Ooh.
And it has
Anna
Faris as the
House Bunny.
Yeah. I love that movie. I own it.
I've actually never seen that one.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
dude,
you got Tyson Ritter.
You would love.
No,
the House Bunny.
for me, Anna Faris is the girl from Scary Movie.
Okay, we're gonna watch the House Bunny
That's
one of these
fine.
days because you will fucking love that.
I mean,
movie.
we still need to watch
guarantee it.
Bring Me the Head of
Alfredo Garcia.
Yeah.
Garcia.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a lot
a
of fun
time at the movies.
I'll check it
Exactly,
out,
and that's all I ask for from a movie.
All I ask of. That's cool. I mean,
Nobody does.
I'm sure people do it better.
I like the cast.
Ethan Hawke is always cool.
Yeah.
Even in the shittiest movies, he's cool.
He's not bad.
And if you think about it, it's a reunion with him and Denzel and the director, Anton Fuqua, who directed Training Day. Yeah.
Which is why the Alamo is showing Training Day later this month.
How is Vincent D'Onofrio?
his character is kind of weird. I completely forgot that.
Really?
Yeah, right. I mean, he plays this like
Trapper John.
Yeah, basically. He's out there in the wilderness, and he's got this weird kind of squeaky voice.
Fuck.
We have to watch this.
Yeah, totally.
We have to watch
it anyway, but to go from Wesley to Wesley.
Not that intense, but it kind of sounds like the same kind of cadence that he has as Kingpin, but like constantly having just sucked on a helium balloon. And it's just like kind of like
We're watching this fucking movie.
may God have mercy on my soul. kind of shit.
Oh yeah.
And he,
yes.
he takes like 3 arrows to the chest and keeps running. It's awesome.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. Next cheap day. It's happening.
Do it
Yeah. Let's watch Vincent D'Onofrio as
the Magnificent.
I'm glad I sold you on just Vincent D'Onofrio.
well, it was kind of
I mean,
like
we're already gonna see it, but
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I hear, and this is just hearsay, is that it's just like a goofball. Like it's the kind of movie that you kind of like just kind of laugh at, and that Vincent D'Onofrio description, and
It sounds so good.
it's like, oh, I have to do this now. It's like why I watch like Double Team. I'll fully admit, like Double Team is not a great fucking movie, but is it a fun movie? Oh yeah. Nobody else in this room agrees with me.
I don't. That's okay.
I've seen it twice.
That
I see it as your Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And I can still appreciate, like, if you were like, hey guys, let's watch Double Team.
That's kind
I'd
of
be
how
like,
we position the commentary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you came up and you were like, hey guys, let's watch Double Team, I'd be like, okay, let me get a drink and we can do this.
Yeah, how much time we got? All right.
I mean, I like JCVD. You know,
not like glass hating Mickey Rourke,
no. I remember that scene.
Dennis Rodman.
And isn't there like a Coliseum or like a
Yeah,
Roman?
that's the climax.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember the setting, but damn it, I'm not a big fan of that one. But JCVD though, that's good. That's a fun.
Has anyone seen JCVD's
I haven't watched
Amazon
it yet.
show?
The Tick was cool, but I
Yeah.
haven't watched the JCVD or John Claude Van Johnson or whatever it's called.
I think it's Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah,
That's all this. Is
I hope we get some JCV Johnson.
Why not?
Jake, you do anything interesting?
I beat episode 2 of the Telltale Batman game,
There you
which the all right, he did it. Episode 1 was cool. It was not a struggle to get through because I enjoyed most of it, but it was a little shaky. And I was playing it, during my Arkham Knight, just possession, where I went like a madman through that game, and it felt like longer. Episode 1, I don't know if it was just set up, but there was moments that I liked, but there's some moments that were kind of shaky. Anyway, episode 2 was fucking astounding. Like this is when the Telltale games start to really make your choices like, hey, this person lives or this person lives, or this is going to change continuity. This is going to change the mythos of Batman. What I love about it is it's not I'm not totally in love with the story necessarily, but what I love is that it's an original story. It's not based off any Batman story or film or or comic or anything like that. So I really enjoy that, and it's a lot of do you do this as Batman? Do you do this as Bruce Wayne? It affects your relationship with Commissioner Gordon. I don't want to spoil it for anybody out there, but there's some the last it's like little sections of the chapter that you play, and the last section is some of the most heart racing gameplay I've ever played in a game, Batman or anything else otherwise. And the bummer is I wanted to go back and replay it, but I want to play it once all the way through with just the choices I make right off the bat, and then kind of maybe mess around with it another time after that. The replay value is high, but I also think Telltale is the perfect way to make a Superman game, because you deal with the reporter stuff, you deal with changing the Superman, or do you investigate as Clark Kent, and then you also deal with, because Superman, you can't really kill him, that's okay, whatever, with the game, because they tried to Superman Returns with the health of the city, which is pointless. It just, I get what they're trying to do, but it wasn't a great idea in the long run. Excuse me. I think with Telltale Superman, what you could do is you make it, again, do you save the burning building or do you save the boat that's sinking? Because that's Superman constantly is making that choice. You don't have to beat yourself over the head with it, but the idea of that it's not about your health bar, because in the Batman game you don't die because of a health bar. It's about the choices and whatnot you make. So I really enjoyed episode 2, and even looking forward to episode 3 even more now. If it's only going to get better from here on out, I'm very excited for that game, because I feel like it got kind of hit a little hard when it came out the gate, but people are kind of warming up to it again now that episode 2 is kind of bringing in some really big characters in the Batman mythos in a new way, which I like. Not necessarily the Penguin, but other people that I like.
Okay. Yeah. You got anything else, Chris?
Oh, actually, while he was talking, I did remember one other thing that I did want to say about Magnificent Seven. Just to kind of like go in even more on it's just fun. There was definitely a scene where I was like, they're shooting up like everyone in this town. What about like the innocent people in this town? Oh wait, no, I'm not supposed to think about that until all the innocent people come running out at the end. And then they did.
Oh.
So like just to, again, like just reinforce that I understand that it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. Do they work in the? I'm assuming they work in the original classic theme in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dun,
Dun 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 dun.
There's
Dun 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 dun. Ba-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. That's it.
yes. There's subtle nods to it throughout the movie. Like every once in a while.
Vincent D'Onofrio. Vincent D'Onofrio. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Here is
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Ethan Hawke
Vincent D'Onofrio.
and Chris Pratt.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Denzel leads the whole cast.
D'Onofrio.
But fuck Peter Sarsgaard.
D'Onofrio.
Yes, that's in there. Exactly like that. No, so naturally, as you can probably guess, as soon as the credits start, like that, it's just huge fanfare. Just that
it is okay.
Yeah, and they have that cool. I don't know if it's in the original movie, but like kind of like just standard like old Western, like just kind of like splash of like, hey, this person and that's his name, like a still or him like doing action from the movie, in like weird technicolored stuff, much like the Wild Wild West TV show, and the movie did it too. But I figured I'd throw in a reference to something other than Wild Wild West the movie, just sneak it in. But yeah, so the theme is there. Yes,
Sweet.
There's I think it's gonna be fun, but there's part of me that's like Anton Fuqua's like, we're gonna make this fucking.
Well, I remember the trailer is like, how many times can you cock a gun?
Yeah.
It's like
Not enough.
one-liner. Ding.
I feel like the perfect allegory for this movie, and I'm getting sight unseen, is like when like Chris Pratt like does the card trick and is like, surprise!
Oh, and
and
then shooting on the face. Yeah. There's that one cool scene that in the trailer where
you're not wrong.
There's that one cool scene in the trailer where like the assassin guy, that the guy goes to shoot and he like flips underneath him and stabs him, and I was like, how do you get killed in that?
Yeah.
Doofus.
They're not all of them. Some of them are inept.
Yeah.
Probably most of them are
Looking forward
inept.
to it. Weren't they going to remake the Wild Bunch? Wasn't that
There was
thing for a while
talk.
ago?
There was talk about remaking
God,
Wild Bunch.
If their idea of remaking the Wild Bunch is making it grittier, how the fuck is the end of that movie going to happen?
Oh,
it's
dude.
just going to be
It'll be
insanity.
It'll be like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan,
but longer and
just four guys killing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Jesus. That has one of just real quick, because we always, even though we haven't talked to him for a long time, Sam Peckinpah's the fucking man. In the beginning, when he's just like boom, and then like it just cuts to directed by Sam Peckinpah. And I'm like,
oh, if anybody moves, kill him.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest lines. One of the greatest movies.
That's great. Selected by the Library of Congress for preservation, just like. I was like, is the Magnificent the original Magnificent? I don't actually fucking know.
Yeah.
It's a great one, though.
Steve McQueen, man.
Steve McQueen is so fucking cool in that movie.
He's the coolest.
And I really liked Robert Vaughn's character.
Sure. Yeah.
And James Coburn.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a great cast.
James Coburn is the original Knife Man. The only person in the original... There's two people in the original 7 where I'm like, you aren't cool. Is Horst Bulks as the, like... He's supposed to be like a Latino guy, but he's a German actor. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work.
No. That's the 60s for you.
Yeah. It worked back then.
Yeah. 1960, like 3, they're like, it's fine. But the other one is Brad Dexter as the guy that's like convinced that there's gold there, and he's like always asking the villagers like, they're here for the gold, right? And they're like, fuck off.
No.
Then he's the first one dead. Spoilers for a 50 fucking year old movie.
Yeah. So Steve McQueen in that movie though is one of those moments where watching it I was like, oh, that's acting is in between the lines. That's a huge moment of Steve McQueen showing that acting is so much more than just waiting to say your next line.
Intimidated Yul Brynner like some shit.
Yeah, and and again, we know
Steve love me some Yule.
We know Steve McQueen as
Steve McQueen didn't.
Yeah, we know Steve McQueen as like
Bullet,
the Cooler King, the coolest motherfucker alive back then. But at the time, and that's because we have hindsight. At the time, he was like new, like nobody really knew about him
as being Josh Randall on Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah, and so he was still very new to the game.
He was a TV actor in a time where TV actors didn't make. If you think about it, him, James Coburn, and that motherfucker Clint Eastwood were all TV.
That guy,
TV actors that made the jump.
Yeah.
To be like big time movie stars, but at that time that was a rarity.
Is Magnificent Seven your favorite Steve McQueen movie?
It's up there. It's between that and The Great Escape.
Okay.
Yeah, Bullet's cool, but Bullet's weird.
Bullet's weird because it has no plot really.
Yeah. But he looks cool.
it's he's got the fucking the black turtlenecks
basically
and then the side
the
holster
archer
and the greatest car chase of all time and a great score.
Yep.
And
Lalo Schifrin, the guy that did the theme to Mission Impossible.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. And also that movie won an Oscar for editing, and on the DVD there is a documentary about editing, the importance of editing. And when I watched that for the first time, when I first watched Bullet years ago, I was like, it made me realize just how important editing is. When I was a little kid, I didn't know what the fuck editing was.
I just think the director does.
Yeah, exactly. It's like what magic of movie making.
What's a producer?
Yeah, and I remember Quentin Tarantino's on it a lot, obviously, and it really kind of opened my eyes to the wonders of editing. Oh, of course.
I mean, Rodriguez, by his own admission, is like, I'm an editor's director.
Same with Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
Kevin Smith's like, I feel like Kevin Smith's the kind of guy that like you can make fun of his directing. You can make fun of his writing, but if you fuck with his editing, he'll like attack you.
That's the most.
Yeah, because I mean, again, he's like that's his thing. He edits as he's filmmaking.
Yeah. Whereas like Rodriguez knows how he's going to edit it, so he shoots accordingly.
Yeah.
He's like some directors would film the intro to the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I already know I'm going to cut that out.
Yeah.
So he just starts.
I would fucking get the shit out of here.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Why?
Yeah, I like him. I like him.
Outlaw style. Outlaw star.
Well, Once Upon a Time in
seen
Mexico was a movie of his that when I saw in theaters, I just hated. And then I watched it again, when it came out on DVD, and I fucking loved it. It was just one of those weird.
Is it your favorite Rodriguez film?
I think a while ago funny enough, I think we asked that question a while ago, and I think I said yes, and it probably still is. I mean, I don't know. I think it's I love Johnny Depp's character in that.
Yeah.
He's the reason why I know how to say caution wet floor in Spanish.
There you go. We've learned a lot from films. This episode proves.
Yeah. Including the Bernstein theme to the Magnificent Seven.
Oh yeah.
Not for you.
So I feel like it's just become something where like occasionally I'll check out an episode just to hear what we're into like from weeks or months ago, just to be like, what did we talk about? And I feel like I've just put in little things to be like, I want to remember just to listen to that bit. I'm not going to listen to any of the rest of this, but I just want to hear that bit.
Yeah. What off the fucking wall thing do we do this week?
Is it another impression of Jesse the Body Ventura, or do they break into song randomly?
Yeah. They just scream Vincent D'Onofrio multiple times.
Does Sam do that weird voice to Josh where he's just, hey.
What about you,
What
Josh?
about you, Josh? What do you think?
Yeah. It's my it's almost like Forrest Gumpian, like, I'm not a smart man,
Forrest Gumpian,
but I know what love is.
I recently got that on
screen door.
Laserdisc.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we talked about it last week, but yeah, Forrest Gump is totally the movie that made me realize movies could be more than just popcorn. Yeah, and for you it was 2001. Jake couldn't come up with an answer.
I said Rocky.
That's right, it was Rocky. I fucking forgot.
Damn it, Sam.
Fuck.
Let's sing all of our favorite themes. It's fucking Forrest Gump.
Yeah, is the but yeah, we should watch Magnificent Seven on a cheap day like Tuesday or something.
Sure, yeah, sure.
I'd be down.
I still want to. I mean, I don't think it's in the theaters that much anymore. It's shrinking in its time, but I still really want to see Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh, it's so good.
and I keep like missing the time because like it's either at like 1 o'clock or so I'm this week I'm working a lot this week, but I'm trying to like find it, even if it's not on a cheap day. I want to see it really bad. So because I've only heard really really good things about it.
Unfortunately, my theater no longer has it, and I don't know why because it's better than the other kids' movies out.
Better than Storks.
Although that's been doing gangbusters. I don't get it. I didn't even hear about it until the day before we got it.
People love them Storks.
Yeah, it's got birds in it.
Yep.
Sam's there.
Just like Sully.
Oh yeah, Sully's got lots of boys.
Yeah. Really birds in repetition in Sully.
Yeah, it's really just the same 3 birds, but
yeah, and most of them are just virtual recreations.
That's true. They are
birds. Yeah. Ah, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to after like watching like heavier stuff. Like as much as I love Hell or High Water. Well, I don't know. Hell or High Water is one of those movies where I'm like, I'm gonna watch fucking.
I'll read a tweet to you off mic because it's got a spoiler in it. But Jane Levy saw Hell or High Water, and it's a fucking great tweet that she shot out about the movie. She enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I did spoil Magnificent Seven,
but
which started this
I don't
weekend.
want to spoil Hell or High Water.
Oh, okay. That's true. Hell or High Water actually, like, you know,
Fucking
a solid like film. Like
Film.
I'll use the word film on it.
Film.
Whereas like Magnificent Seven, it's fun.
It's a movie.
You can go in there knowing that who kills Skarsgård.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Haley Bennett, if you missed it earlier.
Just in case you paused it or muted it for the spoiler.
Yeah.
Sam's here to make sure you heard.
Yeah. There you have it, folks.
I'm really excited. The next night that we're recording, unless we do a later recording, is the premiere of the 2nd season of Ash vs. the Evil Dead and the series premiere of, speaking of Yul Brynner, like we did like 10 minutes ago.
Oh yeah.
New Westworld TV show. 2 premieres I'm super excited for.
Sick.
Yes.
Sick. I will say real quick, it premiered already, but they're having like another premiere thing tonight as the time of recording. A show that I like that we're getting that's starting out. Son of Zorn is a heck of a lot of fun. If you're a fan of the old He-Man stuff, it's like if He-Man grew up to be a terrible father.
He-Man.
It's really fun, and I like the cast a lot. I love Cheryl Hines. Sudeikis I like in voice form. He's really funny. And because again, it's just
because you don't have to punch his stupid face.
it's drawn in like He-Man style. You get all the kind of like basically all like Man-at-Arms, all the different characters, but not called that. Done, but in a real world setting, and nobody treats it as weird. It's just, of course, there's this animated guy.
Yeah, it's a Roger Rabbit style like cartoon in real world.
And it's done by the guys who did. I think I might have even talked about this in the past episode, so I'm fucking sorry. But it's done by the guys who did like the Lego Movie and stuff.
Yeah,
so. It's fun, man. Check it out. And because we had Trad Moore on, props to him. I watched the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ghost Rider.
Oh.
And the Ghost Rider stuff was flawless.
Yeah, how was the rest of it?
I've never seen an episode before it, and it hooked me in because it's Ghost Rider. It was actually fun. I mean, again, this is the first episode I've ever watched. I literally just jumped into a premiere of season 4. But
Jesus, are they already on 4?
I think. But I will say,
yeah.
It felt like Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was fun, but I honestly, guys, I was just there to watch Ghost Rider, and it did not disappoint. If you've enjoyed the all new Marvel Ghost Rider, check it out. It's the Robbie Reyes stuff. It's great. Check out the story as well. But it's really really well done, and the transformation of turning into Ghost Rider, yeah, it's awesome. I enjoyed it.
Metal. Yeah, cool. So I'm friends with my dad on Facebook now.
Oof.
It's weird.
Yeah.
No.
Neither of your fathers have Facebooks, do they?
No.
Your mom does.
My mom
does.
Yeah. Are you friends with your moms?
I am.
Yeah.
She's almost never on it.
Okay.
She did it. She opened it up because my sister, has baby, and my sister uploads
with child.
My sister uploads like every picture that
Sure.
she takes of her child. So my mom was like, "Well, I want to see all of the pictures of my granddaughter."
Is that Vincent D'Onofrio's?
Yes. Yeah. My mom is Vincent D'Onofrio.
But only Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
Yeah, that'd be weird. That'd be weird if my mom came in and was like, "Chris, where's?" I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't fucking do it.
My dad still listens to the show. I'm not going to say.
Does he? God bless him.
Yeah.
He texted me the other day saying that he really enjoyed the Jesse Snyder interview.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
That one was wild, man. It's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, my dad's already commented on something with an emoji.
I can't wait to I can't wait just to see how this unfolds. to see more from Jack Stone. I mean, yeah, my mom is a Facebook, but she tweets a lot of inspirational, fun, nice things, and she always likes and shares stuff from us too when she can. So that's nice. I appreciate that. But yeah, your dad's got a Facebook. That's awesome. That's so awesome.
My dad a couple years ago, my dad looked at it and was like, "Nope, don't like it."
Yeah.
Like he made a Facebook and then was like, "Nah, that's not for me," and closed it down within like a week or two.
Well, let's see how we'll check back next week. Well, this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
See you next week. Thanks again, Simon Spurrier, for coming on the show. Cry Havoc's out in comic book shops and Comixology now.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a new commentary every Monday. We've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.